Hey guys, so as promised, I'm making these videos to kind of get us all on the same page when it comes to life group. We also kind of talked about some major changes that are kind of coming to life groups and how those changes came out of the book Sticky Church, and I handed a copy of the book out to most of you, I think. There may be some of you that didn't get it. If you didn't get it, let me know, and I have 10 copies. You can see them on my desk right there. 10 copies of the book right for you. So if you want a copy, just let me know. So the purpose of these videos is to make sure that we're all on the same page as far as the changes that are going to be coming, and to make sure we're all on the same page about kind of just setting the culture for life groups. And in order to do that, that's kind of one step in order to do that was to give you the books. But I want to make these videos just to kind of make sure that we're all pulling the same information out, so that we're all on the same page for all of this. The first few chapters, the first section is kind of all about, and really the whole book is kind of all about closing the back door. And here's kind of what he means by that. A lot of times churches have a big front door, which means they do a lot of advertising, they do lots of like evangelism pushes, they do lots of things to get people into the front door. But very often we don't think about closing the back door. What that means is keeping people in the church. And here's why that's important. It's important on two levels. It's important on a spiritual level, in that church hopping really is not conducive for spiritual growth. If you think about it, if you're consistently going from church to church to church and you're not in a church that tries to hold on to you, then there's a couple of barriers that are going to get in the way of your spiritual growth. And one of those is getting involved in community. We know that community, and we're life group leaders, so we know this, that community is a very strong and powerful way that God uses. It's a tool that God uses to help us grow spiritually. You get confronted when you're doing life with people. You get held accountable. You get encouraged. You get picked up when you're down. Life group is very much about that community. Now, when you're church hopping, it's impossible for you to get plugged in to that community, so you miss out on that important tool God has for spiritual growth. The other thing that makes it hard is you can't hear consistent good teaching. You can imagine that if you're going from church to church to church, you're just hearing snippets. You're not getting the whole force of the gospel. You're not getting the whole idea of Scripture. You know, one of the reasons we go through a series is because it forces us to talk about Scriptures. It talks about we're forced to go through what the Bible goes through. Now, if you stick around, then you can hear all of what that is. But if you're jumping from church to church to church, well, then you kind of miss out on what those churches, you know, whether they're good or bad churches, but you miss out on what they have for you. And so that kind of inhibits your spiritual growth. The third thing that it inhibits is it inhibits you from getting involved in a mission. I think we can all think of that moment where we serve somebody else, and maybe even for the first time we thought that I could do that more. That was fun. That's something that I want to do. And we feel that way. We think that way because the reality is that Jesus met us in that moment, that we worked with him to love on somebody else. And what that does is it helps us to grow. And so if you're not plugged into a church, it's hard to get involved in a mission. And so you miss out on that spiritual growth. So here's the thing. Closing the back door is a spiritual necessity. It's also a practical necessity. I don't know if you know this. This is kind of a number that gets thrown around in church world. Every year, 10% of your church is leaving. That's on average across the United States. And so every year you have to grow by at least 10% in order to maintain the size that you are. And so shutting the back door is just a practical necessity. What if you weren't losing 10%? What if you were losing 5%? What if you were losing 2%? What if you were losing 1% of the people that come into your church? That would be a huge difference. So those are kind of the two major necessities when it comes to closing the back door. So that kind of leads me to answer a question: how big is our back door? So here's a couple numbers. Between January and May, between January and May, we got 164 new people. Now, that's from Connect cards, and that is from Kids Check-In. That's how we get people's information. So that's 164 new people. That's a very conservative number because there's so many people that don't check kids in and don't fill out a Connect card that come in. That number, realistically, it could be up to 25% higher than that. So let's just be conservative here. We have 164 new people. Attendance from January to May grew by 30 people. So how big is our back door? Well, it's about 134 people. That's 134 people that didn't get plugged in. The reality is that I think that we have a church that, and I say this from stage all the time, you belong here. I really believe that. And so that's 134 people, 130 people that didn't quite know, didn't stick around long enough to see if this is a place where they belonged. Which leads me to ask the question, how do we fix that? How do we get better at holding on to the people that do come? That's where you guys come in. So we talked about a lot of the changes that are coming down the pike, but here's one thing that I kind of want to highlight to make sure that we're all on the same page about. And that's this. This is going to be the intake process for groups. There's 2 ways to get into a group now. One of them will be our online groups portal that we have. That link is going to be made available in September on Facebook and emails. It's going to be everywhere. And on that link are all of your groups. Now, when a new person wants to get involved in a group, they can go to that link, they can see your group, and they can email the leader. And so what our groups portal will do is they'll notify you that somebody wants to be in your group. So that's one way. Then assuming you guys would then follow up with them and get them into your groups. That's one way. The second way is that they can email, and we're going to create a groups at One Hope or info at One Hope email account. That's going to be run by an administrative volunteer I have named Kelly. She's the best. She's uber administrative. Kelly's going to be helping me out. And basically what's going to happen is somebody will email her. She will then send them a questionnaire. Where do you live? What stage of life are you in? Do you have kids? They'll email her back the answers, and then what she's going to do is give them 3 options. So she's going to be handing out your email addresses to people. What she'll also do is she'll email you, hey, here's a potential new person that's looking to get involved in a group. So those are the 2 ways to get involved, and that leads me to an ask. What I want to ask you guys to do is to be really, really good at following up with these emails. I'm going to create a template that you can just copy, paste, maybe make it your own a little bit, but it's basically an email saying, hey, I heard you want to get involved into a group. We would love to have you. Here's 2 characteristics about our group. Maybe we have 12 people who are meeting regularly right now. Some of them have kids, some of them don't. Or maybe it's just, hey, we have several people who are retired now, and we just enjoy getting together. We have potlucks every once in a while. Just 2 characteristics about your group, and then kind of a closing that says, hey, we just would love for you to come. Let me know if you want to. Let me know if you need details. And that's basically it. So the ask is that we would be really good at following up with these people. Again, because it doesn't matter if they come into the church and then only to leave. That keeps them in a cycle of church hopping and church shopping that is so hard. So what we can do is to play our part in this is to be really good at that follow-up. So that's my ask. Thanks for this video. Thanks for watching this video. I'm going to be posting these. I said, we've got 4 total. We'll be posting these in the next week or so. So I hope you can stay engaged. Thanks, guys.